We have more for your ears only. I'm David Alpern.
I'm Melissa Exelberth with a quote from the news. Fortunately, this moved like a Porsche. That was Philippines weather forecaster Michael Padua on the worst ever Typhoon Haiyan, 300 miles wide with record winds at times around 200 miles an hour, whose limited time over the island nation also limited the damage it could do. Still, initial reports indicated at least 100 dead, and experts say the final toll could be a dozen times that. Now this.
Just think of those shocks you got, and those knocks you got, and those blues you got from those news you got, and those pains you got in any brains you got from those little radios.
Times have changed, Cole Porter wrote to start the song Anything Goes in 1934. That was actually him singing it. And times have changed a lot more since then, for the worse as far as our brains and ears go. In place of those little radios, we have crashing rock concerts, screeching police and fire sirens, uncontrolled car alarms, booming movie and home hi-fi systems, not to mention waves of rap and wargame violence wired right into the earbuds so many seem to wear, all of which may well contribute to more and earlier deafness than ever before.
Former New York Times editor Katherine Bouton last week published an essay on the Bloomberg View website about a little-known technology called looping that could help many of the hearing impaired. Bouton's study of deafness, including her own, was published earlier this year, titled Shouting Won't Help: Why I and 50 Million Other Americans Can't Hear You, from Sarah Crichton Books, Farrar, Straus, and Giroux. And to talk about the book, looping, and her ongoing life with limited hearing for your ears only, Katherine Bouton is on the line now. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
We tend to think of hearing loss as something that only happens to the elderly, but that's far from true. Give us some statistics.
Yes, the perception is that hearing loss is a condition of aging. And in fact, 2/3 of those over 75 have hearing loss. But the majority of people with hearing loss are under 60, it's 55%. True age-related hearing loss after the age of 70, affects only 8% of men and 16% of women. The rest of that huge group, that 2/3, were already losing their hearing before they got old.
So even though such a huge percentage of people have hearing loss, there are still stigmas attached. Talk about some of them and the assumptions people make.
Well, hearing loss really is equated in many people's minds with aging, and our society is really obsessed with youth. So all those younger people with hearing loss keep it a secret, even people with really severe hearing loss, and that adds to the perception that hearing loss is a condition of the elderly, because the elderly are the only people who are open about it.
Even when people wear hearing aids, they're not perfect, nor are cochlear implants. Talk about some of each technology's limitations.
Well, I always hate to talk negatively about hearing aids, because I think for people with mild to moderate hearing loss, hearing aids are a great help. They work in any kind of sort of small group, or certainly with individuals, with family, friends, at work, watching television or going to the movies. Really, most daily events. And if you wear a hearing aid, you really should wear it all day long. You shouldn't put it on just to watch television. But the one kind of place that they don't work is places that are very loud, and a lot of people have trouble with restaurants, which tend to be extremely noisy. They also are less successful for people with hearing loss as severe as mine. They need a boost with extra technology. It's really frustrating, because hearing aid manufacturers have a huge potential clientele. Right now, only 1 in 7 people who could use a hearing aid has one. So that's a lot of people who need a hearing aid right this minute, and with our demographics, they're going to get more and more in that group. They have not invested the money for research and development that would make hearing aids work for somebody like me, and eventually I will replace my hearing aid with a cochlear implant. We also need a change not only in the cost of hearing aids, but in how we pay for them. Currently, people are always shocked to hear this. Very few private insurers cover hearing aids in any way. Medicare doesn't cover hearing aids. Obamacare doesn't cover hearing aids. Medicaid, for the most part, doesn't cover hearing aids. And untreated hearing loss is a big public health problem.
There's a little used, at least here, technology called looping that you believe could help millions of people. What is looping? How does it work?
Oh, looping is a great technology. It involves wrapping a wire around a room or between seats in a theater. the wire acts as a transmitter for the speaker, who uses an ordinary microphone. The listener simply switches the program on his hearing aid to telecoil mode, and the sound is suddenly crystal clear. Interestingly, looping works for hearing people, too. Even with perfect hearing, you often can't hear the speaker in a big place or over other noise. And where looping is installed, somebody with hearing can borrow from the venue a simple headset or an earbud, and they can hear the speaker as clearly as if they were in the front row. I first experienced looping a couple of years ago at an annual meeting of the Hearing Loss Association of America, which is a national support and advocacy group, and they have a big meeting every June in one city or another around the country, and hundreds of people attend. And so at that first meeting, I was at a symposium on research in hearing loss, which I was really, really interested in and really wanted to hear. And I didn't think I would be able to hear it, but before the discussion, someone announced that the room was looped and explained how to use your telecoil on your hearing aid. And it was amazing. I heard every word. I still remember that experience so vividly. It was the first time I had heard clearly in probably a good 25 years.
Your book talks about denial when it comes to deafness. People cope rather than admit their hearing is going, but so many of us walk around with those Bluetooth earpieces, earbuds, even full-size headphones. Shouldn't wearing a hearing aid no longer be a big deal?
I think the stigma is beginning to disappear as more and more people acknowledge their hearing loss. But it is still a stigma of aging, what we talked about at the beginning. My goal, one of my main goals in writing and talking about hearing loss is to encourage other people to be open about it, too, and to get it treated.
Former New York Times editor Katherine Bouton is the author of Shouting Won't Help, Why I and 50 Million Other Americans Can't Hear You, from Sarah Crichton Books, Farrar, Straus, and Giroux.
Sounds of silence.
Quote from the news, to some extent, the inmates run the asylum. Coaches have a lot of other things to deal with. That was former professional football star Trevor Pryce on the scandal in which Miami Dolphins end Richie Incognito was suspended after charges of brutally hazing rookie teammate Jonathan Martin.
Next, for Veterans Day, the head of the Navy SEAL Foundation, for your ears only.